I'm Chris.
And I'm Kiley. And this is Redefining Resilience,
where we explore what it means to build a resilient lifestyle
so you can thrive in any and every situation.
Welcome back. We are here with Dr. Staci.
Yes.
So excited to have you on this podcast. I saw you speak a couple weeks ago about stem cells.
Yes.
And immediately knew we needed to be friends because we're speaking a lot of the same language from a health perspective, and are very much aligned from a lifestyle standpoint where your health really begins with your lifestyle. And I will let you tell us more about what you do and how you help people, but I really loved your presentation and how passionate you are about holistic health and empowering people to take control of their life and their fitness. You are a chiropractor and founder of the Well Infused in Noblesville, Indiana, which I was a client of before even seeing you speak. Yeah.
Which is really kind of nice because to have people in the audience who kind of already have an understanding of what we do and who we are and the level at which we deliver our service is really helpful. And I mean, adds a lot of value to the people in the room who don't know me or who don't know what I stand for, or maybe that's their first time interacting with any of our businesses. So
yeah, it was amazing. So where did your career in wellness begin?
I think when I was 14 or 15 years old, my very first job was as a nanny. But I was a nanny for a woman who ran the fitness center that was attached to our hospital. And they were really short on water aerobics instructors. So
yes,
30 years
this
ago.
This is amazing.
30 years ago, she's like, okay, once you're done watching the kids, can I have you come teach this class? And I'm like, I don't know what. She's like, don't even worry about it. You just have to move a little bit. You know how to swim? And I'm like, yeah, I know how to swim. I'm a lifeguard too. She's like, okay, then you've got this. And so I taught this water aerobics class, which was fantastic, and ended up, even as a junior and a senior in high school, managing that fitness center. Yeah, my high school let me out of school early because they considered that my PE, also my work study hour, and then business training because I was managing the books at the end of the day. And so it's kind of like if you do the right things and you know the right people, it can get you in the right positions, right?
Absolutely.
So junior and senior year of high school, I managed this fitness center. When I went to college, I had originally intended on doing physical therapy, which is a great and noble profession. But I realized that I was either going to be in a hospital or working nights and weekends. Yeah. And I just knew that wasn't what I wanted. So went all through undergrad and applied to medical school, took my MCATs, took a year off after graduating and before med school, and ended up working at the hospital in my local town, same hospital where I had managed the fitness center, ironically enough. And I thought, okay, well, as a woman, I should probably be in peds or in family medicine. And so I applied for a front desk job and got it. But I love systems and procedures. So they ended up shipping me off to almost every department in the hospital because I made them work more efficiently. The doctors loved me because their offices ran more smoothly. But in the process, I realized, oh my gosh, like if this is what going to medical school means, people come in sick and unhealthy and unhappy, and they leave with this little white piece of paper, and then they come back 4 or 6 weeks from now, so sick, unhealthy, and unhappy, getting another white little piece of paper that they think is going to save their health, and it's not. And I realized in that moment, I was like, I can't go to med school. Like I had this pit in my stomach, like, oh my gosh, that's not what I thought I was going to school to become. And while there's a time and a place for medicine, and that's not to put a negative on it, I just knew that wasn't for me. Yeah. Unsure why up until that moment chiropractic didn't occur to me as a profession, because I was a patient, but everything happens in the right time for the right reasons. And so I went to chiropractic school, and every patient that walks out of my office leaves healthier and happier and fewer prescriptions, amazingly enough, right? I'm not a medical doctor and I don't take them off their meds, but they have less need for them when their bodies operate the way they're supposed to. Yeah. So I bought my first chiropractic practice literally the day I graduated, started a busy practice, quadrupled it, had 3 associates working for me when I moved here to Indiana, so that was in North Dakota, sold that practice and started all over with my husband at Life Refined in Noblesville almost 7 years ago.
Okay, oddly enough, the three of us have all lived in Dakotas.
Wow.
Yeah, I lived in Minot for a while.
I'm from Minot, Trinity Hospital. Is where
Minot, man.
I was there this weekend. My brother, for the first time in like maybe a decade, flew back from Hawaii with his wife and 1-year-old. So was just there over the weekend.
Oh my
70-mile-an-hour winds you missed, by the way. So
Yeah.
sorry about it.
People don't believe how shitty that place
was
is.
Awful.
It is
It was
unreal.
awful. Yeah. So I started a brand new practice here, started from scratch, which was hard because I bought my first one. You start busy, whole new set of problems, right?
Yeah.
But we grew this Life Refined practice, which really like took off during COVID because we stuck to our principles on where true health and healing come from, and we attracted people who align with what we believe. And it's been wonderful. But we kept hitting this wall, like this plateau, where we could get people better, we could get their nerve system functioning better, which is really the focus of the way we approach chiropractic. Your nerve system controls everything. So if you address the nerve system, everything else will start to get better as well. And we have really cool ways of measuring that, measuring progress. But when we hit a plateau, and we keep hitting the same plateau over and over, and then I hit that same plateau for myself, I realized we needed to do something more. Not that chiropractic by itself isn't amazing, but there are other things that can help us become even better versions of ourselves. So when I was a week shy of 37, my daughter was born, and I just felt like I never bounced back. Like I felt amazing through pregnancy, but after pregnancy, like chronic pain, I could tell my hormones couldn't figure out how to re-regulate. I was exhausted all the time. And even my typical holistic provider was like, everything looks normal, like you'll get through it. It's just this phase. And I'm like, that's not an answer. Like, this isn't okay. And so I started looking into some of the things I was familiar with, bioidentical hormones to a certain extent. I'd had some educational training on, but no personal experience, and decided that that's something I wanted to pursue. Well, when I figured out that I was going to be put on a 6-month wait list to see a provider who did this, I was like, nope, that's not going to work for me. I'll do it myself.
I love it.
Yeah. And so from there, I was silly post in a women's group. I was like, hey, looking for a holistic minded nurse practitioner. And everything happens exactly how it should. And this woman answered my post, and she's like, want to have coffee? The rest is history. That's our nurse practitioner here in Noblesville, and couldn't be doing anything that I'm doing with Well Infused without her for sure. But it's been amazing. Like now we've grown this additional business here in Noblesville, where we do the bioidentical hormones, precision IV therapy, functional medicine, stem cells, ozone, really cool stuff that has now taken my chiropractic patients and been able to bust through those barriers or those plateaus where they were getting in their health. We also have a clinic in Naples, Florida. So that opened. It's just about to come up on the 1-year anniversary. And Well Infused has actually just finally passed all of the requirements to become a franchise as of July.
Awesome.
Yeah. We are actually, I'm going to be delivering a huge presentation in Las Vegas this weekend to really jumpstart the franchise. But we have people interested all over Florida, all over the U.S., but a lot of interest in Florida and then the Midwest. And so we'll be opening at least 5 additional clinics over the next 12 months.
Can we request one in Carmel?
I've had requests for Westfield, Zionsville, but nobody's signed on the paper yet.
We can get on board with Westfield.
Let's talk
Let's
about
go.
That. Let's talk about that. We have the teams in place to like even figure out the demographics for how many can we handle in a certain geographic region. And so even with the flagship being here in Noblesville, I would 100% put another one in our region because we need it. Our schedules are full and we're out of space at our current location. And so there's it's not just a need locally, it's a need in the country.
Yeah.
I run into frustrations. Like I spoke at a great conference a few weeks ago that is sponsored by a well-known company. But we get people coming in from these online companies when they're doing their labs saying, okay, well, I got my results back, but what do I do? Like they sent me this box of supplements, but I don't even like know why or how, or like I'm sure there's something more I can be doing than just, and supplements are great if you're deficient, right? Nothing wrong with that, but they don't have the guidance. So there's a lot of people trying to create a better model, and I commend them for that. But where they fall short is actually providing the services and recommendations in a customized one-on-one way that will help deliver those results. So we kind of blend that data-driven, like let's grab the data, let's get your labs. We do a really cool 72-point panel that finds what everyone else misses. But then we have the services and the one-on-one actual nursing provider, nurse practitioner-led care that will help them get the results. And so we've created a model that it needs to be like brick and mortar. Like we can't do everything online. There's a time and a place for that. But it provides the data, and then it provides the proven systems and services that get people the results they've been looking for. And we just see miraculous things happen.
Well, I love that you have just seen the needs and jumped on the opportunities.
A little bit selfish, like I needed this for me.
Yeah.
Right? But now I can speak with anyone and kind of give you that personal experience. My patients know, like, I won't release any service until I've done it myself.
Yeah.
It's like I would never recommend to a patient anything I wouldn't do for me or my family. And so it just makes it fun, and it makes it easy, and it makes it incredibly authentic, because they truly know, patients know, this is just what I do.
Right. And you look healthy.
Thank you.
Are happy.
Yes.
And you can tell clearly active, fit, energetic. Like you can just tell by interacting with you that whatever you've got, people will want.
Thank you.
So that was like immediately the first thing that drew me to you, because we see a lot of health professionals or wellness professionals that, you know, they talk about, oh, I'm here to help you with your anxiety, but I can feel your anxiety.
Yeah.
You know, or
it's like taking advice from your medical doctor who's 100 pounds overweight. Like,
correct. Yeah.
There seems to be a disconnect here. So if we don't lead by example, then we're not leading at all.
Yeah.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Oof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest roadblock with fitness.
Sure.
So you end up seeing a lot of trainers that look like they need a trainer.
Yeah.
And we got into this really weird mix for several years of I am who I am. That doesn't mean that I don't have knowledge.
Yeah.
I just don't apply it. The problem is it's not an issue of data, just like with what you were saying.
Right.
We have the data.
Yeah. Yep.
So what the fuck do you do
Yep.
with all the data? How do I take this and put it in my life and change my life?
Yeah.
We're overloaded right now with data.
We really are. And, you know, we have this beautiful 72-point panel because we know what we want to do with that data. Any provider could check those boxes and run those labs, right? Like there's nothing really proprietary about that, except for it's what gives us the information we need. Anybody could go run those labs, but who's interpreting them? That's the biggest question.
And to what outcome?
Exactly. And AI can only do so much. Like AI is a great tool for us to be using, but we don't use it for that, because if you don't use clinical thinking skills, if I can't take a patient's health history into account and family history into account, and what supplements are they taking right now and what have they tried that didn't work, then I could be just, you know, furthering the spinning of wheels where they're trying the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. We all know what that leads to. And so for us, it's really important to make sure that the interpretation gives them the direction and the guidance, and then has checkpoints to make sure it's working.
Yeah. Vision and goals, man.
Well, and I think one important thing, because Elizabeth read my results with me when I got my blood work done, right? And got the long report, and I looked at it first and was like, oh my gosh, what is this? Yeah. But she walked me through it, and a couple things that stuck out when she read my report. One, she talked about what's normal or average. And how normal or average is not necessarily what we're aspiring to.
Do you want the average American's health?
No.
No.
Because it's not good.
So normal, when there are these giant ranges, are not acceptable.
Right.
And our medical providers only look at the numbers that finally fall into that abnormal range. Well, I had a patient come in this morning with osteoporosis, chronic pain, immune system deficiency, but her vitamin D, I asked it, and they're like, oh, the doctor said that it was just on the edge, but still normal. And I'm like, hello?
What's the outcome?
Yeah.
What's the problems
you're
dealing with?
This is not okay. And so that tells me, oh, you're probably at a 30. Like, I know what that number means.
Yeah.
You should be at a 70 if you want your body to function well.
Optimally.
But medical providers get nervous about, oh, too much vitamin D can be toxic. And it's like, well, let's be reasonable about what we're recommending and use the data to guide us and know what we're helping a patient achieve. But I mean, somebody like that, they've done her a disservice. She slipped through the cracks, and that's not okay. Yeah. But it happens all the time.
So on that note, how have you seen the health and wellness industry evolve since you began your career?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, a lot of what people were still interested was pain mitigation, right? They're like the reactive care. They're like, I have a problem, I want it fixed, and then like get me back to where I was before. And quite frankly, that's the insurance model, right? We've been trained by the medical industry and the insurance industry to take care of our health the way the insurance company wants to pay for it. Well, that's not great. Like their goal is if you're falling off the edge of a cliff to get you back on the edge of the cliff, right? Like that's it. Like they're not here to see you get up the whole mountain and reach the pinnacle of what health and wellness and vitality can look like. They're just trying to keep you from dying or having a major medical emergency, right?
Yep.
And so I'm grateful to insurance because if I break my leg and my bone's sticking out, there's a time and a place for medicine and surgery, right? But that's not where health comes from. That's sick care. Healthcare is different. And so I felt like I was trying to create a healthcare model in a sick care world for a really long time. And then during the time of COVID, when people started to really care about and take care of and focus on their health, that shifted. Now, the pendulum has not swung to the other side by any means. People are still reactive because we were trained like that for so long. But there are more people more interested in health and just general enhancement than the number of people who will come into my practice now, the percentage that will come in with no problems, just saying, I want to feel better, I want to be my best, I want more energy, is drastically different than it was before. I hesitate to put a percentage on it because it's hard to tell, but that never happened before. Like people never came in with no complaints. They were always there for a reactive reason. But now the number of people coming in for proactive purposes has significantly grown, and that's fun. Like that's the fun part, because that's where not only do people feel better, but their lives are better, right? Like I see marriages restored because people get their hormones back. Like it's like, oh my gosh, I actually do like my husband. It wasn't him, it was me, silly things like this. You see people who, like we have one patient who was afraid to visit his grandkids because the medical world told him that if they had a sniffle, he could get sick and die, right? That's terrible. Well, we go through some of our processes and protocols and some of our, quite frankly, larger protocols with stem cells and regenerative therapy, but his COPD is gone and he flew out to Utah to see his grandchildren go hiking. Like that could not have occurred in his life if it hadn't been for the system that we've created and the opportunities that we've created. So it's not just that it's keeping people, for feeling better. I've got a little bit more. It's life changing.
Yeah.
And I used to hesitate to say that because I felt like that was like kind of like all high and lofty. But now I'm like, no. Yeah. You were given this innate intelligence in your body for a reason, and you were put here for a reason. And if you don't accomplish that mission, whatever it is, that's sad. And if this will help you accomplish your life mission, well, there's nothing else. Like nothing else matters. If you have your health, you can have 1,000 wishes, right? But if you lose your health, you've got one. Yeah. So if we can't take care of that one most important thing, then I don't feel like I'm serving my purpose either.
I love that. Okay, so what's your best advice to the person who is continuously going to the doctor, getting the white paper, and just in the hamster wheel of like the medicine cocktails and trying to figure out what's wrong with me, and I have no energy, and I just got diagnosed with this autoimmune disorder, and like I've tried everything.
Yeah. Well, okay, that's easy because I hear those things literally every single day.
I have to
multiple times every single day. I think the first thing is don't let your diagnosis define you. Like so many people attach to these diagnoses and they think that that's just what it is, that this is just something I have to live with. And that's something that you've been told by the medical system, and they're wrong. Like you don't have, like, there are things you might have to battle your whole life, but you are not your condition. And so you haven't tried everything. There are other ways. You just haven't encountered the people who know what those tools are. I would say find a provider that will listen to you instead of just put your symptoms in a box, name it something, and hand you the white piece of paper that corresponds with it, right? Like that's what happens every day. And that is the medical world, right? They are there to treat symptoms, and medications typically do a decent job of treating symptoms, but create a whole new host of problems in the process. So I'm not a medical doctor. I don't ever give medical advice. That's why I hire great nurse practitioners who can do that. I can just lead people in the right direction and steer them to the people who are going to help them most, whether that's in our clinics, I refer out to other clinics for people who do things differently than we do that a person might need. Because at the end of the day, if I get the high five for helping someone or for sending to the person who did, either one of those things is fine by me. So first and foremost, biggest piece of advice is it doesn't have to be this way. There are other options. We just need to help you find a place to look for those services.
Beautiful. You mentioned hormones and hormone therapy. How do our hormones affect our health?
Oh my gosh, that's a very big question.
I know.
I would start by saying most of the time, like let's talk thyroid hormones, sex hormones, right? So most of the time when it comes to thyroid health, most medical providers check 1 or 2 boxes to check your thyroid and don't look at the rest of the numbers. Like our panels have, I think, 8 or 9 different markers to see if your thyroid is working well, and if it's not, where is that coming from? So many people are just automatically prescribed medication that don't treat the root cause. They just treat the symptoms. So that's one of my biggest frustrations, because I feel like that is a wildly like big problem that's not being addressed properly. And then when it comes to sex hormones, like I love to help clients focus on what should you be doing at home? Like, what are the small things? Like, what should you be eating? How should you be exercising? How should you be sleeping? Like, sleep, so underutilized as a health tool, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
because it's free and it's not sexy.
well,
you know,
people skip the easy stuff because they think it's so easy it can't really be that effective.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, the little things are the big things. Like, so focus on those. But I know from firsthand experience, like I was doing all the right things. Like when it came to and I'm so grateful I went through that experience, because none of what we have now would exist if I hadn't had that problem, right? So you always have to look for those silver linings. But going through that experience for myself, I knew I was doing everything up until that point I knew to do. And so I had to figure out, I was like, okay, well, there has to be more. And that's when I went in search of whatever that more looks like, and came into the ozone therapy, the bioidentical hormones. And so when it comes to hormones, I think people think all that hormones mean is I'm going through menopause, like, and that's like the diagnosis people are given, right? Like, oh, it's just menopause, you'll get through it. Well, that takes some women 10 years to like feel like themselves again, if they ever do, right? And so I feel like often people are given that and just said, oh, it's just normal part of aging, or yep, everyone has to go through that. Well, no, they don't. Like, you might go through a change in your life, but that doesn't mean you can't feel good while that's happening. Right. And so the bioidentical hormones have been huge for that. But I think people misunderstand the fact that hormone depletion can mean your joints hurt. Hormone depletion can mean you have brain fog. Hormone depletion can mean you have mood swings. And in many cases, those people would be given a sleep medication, a mood medication. Yep. They'd be symptom treating rather than addressing the root cause. I think we have the idea in our head, a lot of people do, that hormone therapy is dangerous. Well, the old way of doing it, the medical synthetic way of doing it, could be and could increase some risk that people worry about. But most women don't also know that their heart cardiovascular health risk goes way, way up when those hormones drop. The most likely time you are to start to have heart problems is when you're going through menopause. Well, if we can balance those hormones, now not only is it not a risk factor, it's a protective factor. But the medical industry is not trained to understand or think that way. And so many women shy away from the idea of hormone therapy because they think it could be detrimental, or that the risks outweigh the benefits. Now, that's something everybody needs to discuss with their personal provider, but that's not what the research tells us. And so going back and finding someone who will listen to you, that you trust, that is leading by example, is going to help steer you in the right direction.
I think that last portion is the most important.
Yeah.
They have to be living what they're preaching.
Yeah.
Because they have to have either gone through it. Mm-hmm. My favorite athletes to follow, or my favorite coaches, are the ones that went through mountains of garbage.
Yeah.
Because then I know that I can ask them anything.
Yep.
And they're going to have gone through that and way worse.
Yep.
So whatever I'm asking of them is easy for them to walk me through.
Exactly.
It's like finding a trainer that's a competitive athlete. Mm-hmm. So I tell people all the time, find somebody that is 10 steps past where you ever want to go.
Yeah.
Because then it's going to be easy for them to walk you through that small gap in the middle.
Exactly right. Yep. Exactly right.
All the health issues that we're seeing now in America.
Yeah.
What's causing it? Because I don't feel like I knew a boatload of people that had experienced cancer when I was a kid growing up. It was like when somebody got cancer, it was like, hold the phone. This is the one person like in my world that I've ever heard of getting cancer. And now it's like, I mean, I've said this before, but I was at a family gathering a couple months ago and I just took inventory of the room, and 6 of the 12 of my family members that were there have had or currently have cancer.
It's scary. It's really scary. Where is it coming from?
Yeah. What is going on?
My personal opinion, 2 big things. Number 1, people forget stress comes from 3 places: physical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress. Most people look to physical stress first. They're like, okay, well, what did I do? Well, the number of my patients that come in, they're like, Dr. Staci, I don't know what I did, but I'm like, oh, it's not a physical stress, because you'd know if you had a physical stress.
Right. Did you fall down the stairs?
Did you fall? Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, did you trip over the curb? Did somebody, whatever it is, you will know if there's a physical stressor. That's primary. Now, there might be little things, right? You sit at the computer imbalanced with a mouse all day, you're sitting improperly, whatever, little ones. But if you're looking for a primary physical stressor, you'll know what it is. You don't have to look for it. Emotional stress is number 2. And most people recognize that they have emotional stress. Oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out at work, or stressed out at home, or whatever the case might be. People often, though, forget that positive environmental changes can be stressors. So the example I give is that whether you step into a shower that's way too hot or way too cold, your reaction is the same, right? Fight or flight mechanism. The same thing will happen. I'll ask someone, oh, is there any stress in your life? They'll be like, no, everything's great. I got a new job. I'm getting married. I'm pregnant and having a baby, and I'm taking a vacation. I'm like,
there they are.
That's a lot of change.
A lot of change at once. And your body just recognizes change, not positive or negative, just the accumulation, right? And so emotional stress people realize, but they don't look at it the same way as I do when I'm trying to evaluate for them. And then the last one is going to be chemical stressors. And most people are like, oh, nope, no chemicals in my world. And I'm like, oh, really? What did you have for breakfast?
Neurochemicals.
Yes. What did you have for breakfast? Are you taking a Tylenol? Are you taking a NyQuil? Are you taking, the allergy medication? Like, all of these are chemicals. But the biggest source is really the chemicals that are packaged to look and taste like food. It's not food. It's chemicals. And now we think that we've got all these attention issues, and we've got chronic inflammation, and we've got diabetes, because of the food that we eat. It says it's healthy, or it even says it's gluten-free, but it's actually just packaged chemicals.
You mean gluten-free Oreos are not healthy?
It turns out, I was actually just researching that this week. But people, I'm like, okay, please don't just swap out your gluten-filled for gluten-free versions. Like, that's not a health. I mean, that's a step, right? Like, I'm not going to condemn anybody for taking that step. It's a movement in the right direction. But most people aren't willing to take and make the drastic changes that it truly requires. So I think a lot of our food that is allowed in the United States today is allowed to be filled with these chemicals. I was just telling you before we started recording, like, my daughter today had apple day at school. And so I sent with her a gluten-free apple pie. It's a special day, right? I'm going to let you have a small treat. Yes, there's some sugar in there, but your body can balance out, because I know what you'll have for dinner tonight. But I got this email from her teacher around lunchtime, and it said, hey, Dr. Staci, I just wanted to check in. Mila said that she can't have wheat, dairy, gluten, sugar, chemicals, dyes, or sugars. And I'm not sure what to do. And I'm like, yes, that's my girl. Like, she knows. Like, all of these amazing things, donuts and cookies and crackers and lollipops and apple chips and whatever else is put in front of her. And she's like, I better ask my teacher if it includes any of these things. And she's 7 years old. If we all just treated our bodies that way, the health of our country would not be a problem.
She's a smart cookie.
She's a smart cookie, no pun intended.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, because, and I also know what she'll get for dinner tonight, right? So she can have the slice of the gluten-free apple pie that I sent. And I was like, you know what? She can choose one, the apple cider or the apple juice. But please don't give her both. Simple stuff like this. So she'll come home a little sugared up today compared to what she normally would be, but
that's why you're here, and your husband is handling the sugar child.
Handling all
the sugar.
He's still in the office. I've got a wonderful nanny who's handling that until 6 o'clock tonight. And so I love that she thinks that way. But that's where the health of our country is really taking a major decline, is the fact that we've been tricked into thinking that these things are health foods, or people just don't have the understanding that healthy food does not have to take a lot of time and it does not have to be difficult. I also feel like the chemicals in our world that come from pharmaceuticals are a really major issue. Now, I'm not here to talk about, deep in-depth topics on that, although we could have another podcast for that on another day. But my kids have never had chemicals. My daughter's never had a medication. She's never had a vaccination. We don't put chemicals in our kids. I believe that God gave us a body that was really smart and knows how to take care of itself if we take care of it. And so that's what we do, is we not only make sure that our kids are surrounded by a healthy environment and happy family and exercise, like she gets outside, our kids are active. These things are really important, but we just know that the way we support their immune systems and their growth and development and the way that God gave us tools to do that is better than what man could make. And so we just keep our kids chemical free, and they're the healthiest kids you'll find.
I love that.
Well, it's also training a new generation, right?
I sure hope so.
Every generation should be smarter than the previous.
I think it missed a generation.
I think
we went backwards for a while. And somehow somebody's got to turn this thing around. And then you realize, okay, well, maybe that somebody is me. And while I might not be able to do it for everyone, if I can talk about it enough and change enough minds or even help people see things from a different perspective, maybe that does start to shift.
And that was our goal.
That's the only goal, right?
Yeah.
That's the only way to make it happen, is somebody has to start and just hope for the best.
And you just barrel through, right? Like, because you're going to get feedback that's not positive. You're going to get people who think you're crazy. I experience that every day of my life. And I'm like, good, because I made you think, right? Yeah. Like, if you came to that conclusion, you realize that there's a different way. Yeah. And it at least opened your eyes to that possibility. Even if you choose not to go down that path, now you know that there are two paths to choose from.
Well, I think that's the hardest the hardest thing and the problem that's presented. Once you are, your third eye is open, if you want to use the ethereal term.
I'm familiar.
It's open.
Yeah.
And once it's open, you can't shut it.
You can't close it. No. You can't go back. You can't unknow.
So I think there's a lot of people that say, I would rather live in the cave and talk about the shadows than worry about getting into the real world. Yeah. Because once I'm in the real world, I'm now responsible for my actions, because I understand that I'm responsible for my actions. Yeah. And nobody else is.
It's true. And here's, I think, one of the hardest things as a healthcare provider is that you can't save them all. Yeah. And you have to take care of the people who are ready to make the change and are looking for a leader, not dig through the caves of the people who don't want to come out. Like, I did that for a long time. Like, the number of people that I wanted to convince, I've kind of got this rule that if I walk into a consultation with a client and I want them to be healthy more than they want it for themselves, it's not going to work out. Like, I can't help you if I want it more than you do, because I can't do it for you. And if I have to pull you along, you're going to pull back and it won't work. When you're ready for me, I'm here for you. But as a healthcare provider, that sucks, because some of those people are in your own family. Some of those people are your dearest friends, and you see what they're doing to themselves, but you can't do it for them.
Oh, so true.
I think that's where you get the most pushback too, is the family and the close friends. Yep. I know we were talking about it before this, the process of shedding friends, opening a small business, just owning a business. You're going to shed friends. But what we talk about has lit a lot of fires under a lot of people.
You know what? Good.
Yeah.
It's hard. And then you grow some thick skin. And at some point you're like, you know what? Good. That's what I'm here to do. I wasn't here to like blend in. I was here to stand out. Yep. My daughter, wheat, dairy, gluten, chemicals, whatever she listed off today, that's in this email. I'm going to save that email forever. Yeah. And remind her, like, this is what I am so proud of that email coming from her teacher today. I'm like, my work here is not done, but I am on the right, I am on the right path, right? Yes. Like, we're headed in the right direction, but you can't want it more for someone else, and you can't save them all. But when they're ready, we can be here for them.
Yeah, so true. I think going back to what you shared about some of the information that we've been given over the years. I always go back to, I read this somewhere, I don't remember where, but it said, it's easier to believe in a lie than to believe you've been lied to.
Yeah, I've heard that, and it's so true.
It is. And if you go back, like, I don't think that there was intentional, malintent, right? When the healthcare system first started prescribing medications, I think they thought that they were doing us good. Yep. And I think when we experienced the Industrial Revolution and figured out how to mass produce food, we were like, cool, now we can feed people easier.
And they did this after the Depression, right?
Right.
Like, I get it. People were starving, time and place. But don't double down when you're wrong. Like, admit that you're wrong and fix it. Don't, gosh, that's like, if people could just swallow their ego and be like, you know what? I messed up.
The problem is that's a very expensive ego.
It's an expensive
And once you're
ego.
talking about $1 billion ego over and over and over again, you got a lot of people very invested in the fact that Fruity Pebbles should shroud the poison. Right?
We can't just rename red dye a different name and disguise it as something else.
I know corn sugars. I don't know. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Let's change the name and try to trick them again. Really? This is okay with someone?
It's disgusting.
But it's awesome. It means we shook the system hard enough that they're
reacting.
They reacted, which means they are watching. Right?
And they know.
Yes.
Oh, they've known for a long time.
Yes.
But money talks.
There's no plausible deniability here.
No.
You changed the fucking name of the thing that we're attacking.
We're going to try to disguise it.
Yes.
Yeah, let's make it sound something happy so that you don't think that it's the same thing as we put in last week.
Fast red, I think is what they call it.
Fast red, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, you'll be moving quick, you know.
High performance.
Exactly. But parents are waking up. Like, there are parents that will come in and they'll be like, nope, I already know. I watch for red dyes and I know if they eat that, they act like a different child.
Yep.
So people are aware of it. And I think, there's a lot of really great organic moms groups out there that like to spread a lot of good information. And I think that that's kind of almost an introductory for a lot of people who just don't know or have just not been made aware of the fact that we've been fed this literally misinformation for a really long time. And it kind of helps to open their eyes and they start to watch for things, even if they don't change everything. I have a mom in my practice that very desperately wants to feel better. And so she said, you know what I did last week is I went through my entire kitchen and I threw out everything that you told me I shouldn't be eating. She goes, my teenagers are mad. And I'm like, good for you. Good for you. I said, they will not starve themselves. They will start eating again. And then, it's been like 3 or 4 weeks now. And she goes, yeah, they're coming around. They're eating vegetables. She goes, it is not easy, but we are doing it.
Yeah.
And
But
I'm
nothing
like,
great in life is easy.
Nothing
And the health of your children should be so paramount.
Yeah.
And the health of the ones you love should be so paramount. There shouldn't be any amount of pushback that is worth crumbling under.
It's just so true. Stand your ground because you know it's better for them. And it's going to be hard. Anything worth having is worth a trial for. It's just true.
100%.
Yep.
You truly walk the talk when it comes to health and wellness. So I'm very curious, what are your daily routines like?
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And don't skip out on like the boring, simple stuff that you may think is like common sense or not really worth mentioning because it's the little things that make a big impact.
Okay. Should I just walk through my day?
Yeah.
Okay. I am very blessed to have an amazing husband who wakes me up in the morning so that I do not have to set an alarm clock. It doesn't mean I get up late. I'm still up really early, but he wakes me up and there is coffee sitting on my bathroom counter when I walk in.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
Do we have the same husband?
Oh, yeah. See? Really, there's not a better way to start the day. And I probably don't tell him that often enough, but it really is like, it makes my day. That coffee is mold-free, pesticide-free, chemical-free. So it's a superfood coffee because coffee can be a superfood. People will be like, oh, are you ever trying to quit coffee? I'm like, I did that once in college. I was mean. You didn't want to be around me. But what people get addicted to or have the reaction to are all the chemicals and pesticides in the coffee, not the healthy coffee bean itself, right? So that's how I start my day. I get showered and ready for work. On the way out the door, I have methylene blue. Methylene blue is, we do it all from a compounding pharmacy. So we're very particular about product quality and dosage and those types of things. But that is a really interesting compound in the fact that can kind of donate or accept an electron. So it's really interesting in how it can kind of help clear out debris from your system. So someone will use it for something like a UTI, but you can also use it to feed your mitochondria, which is great for energy and focus and concentration. So that for me just makes a world of difference. I absolutely notice how much that affects me in a positive way on a daily basis, with no downside. So awesome, right? Like that's what we're looking for.
Cautionary tale, your pee will turn blue.
Bright blue.
Bright blue. It will look like toilet bowl cleaner when you are done going to the bathroom.
My daughter followed me into the bathroom after I went once, and she goes, "Oh my goodness, Mom, are we using the same cleaner as the school?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm just going to let that ride." Because it does look like toilet bowl cleaner blue, right?
Oh,
like,
absolutely. Yep. Chris and I are on methylene blue every single day also, and have seen the same benefits. And both of us have ADHD, but manage it without any
here's the thing.
Narcotics.
ADHD is a gift. It is an
really
absolute gift if you know how to use it.
Yes.
There's some really great books. I actually used to do some protocols for Dr. Ned Hollowell is his name. So you can kind of look him up. And he did a lot of great, it's been probably 10 years ago now that I did his protocols, but great information on how ADHD is absolutely a gift if you know how to package it right.
Yes.
I could not do all the things I do if I had a one-track mind, right?
Same.
So really cool. So that has made a world of difference for me. I usually do intermittent fasting. That just works for me most of the time. There are days I don't. If I'm super hungry in the morning, then I'm going to grab a protein or a healthy fat to start my day. But most of the time I'm intermittent fasting until I get to lunchtime. I'll be honest, my husband also packs my lunch and he does a lot of our cooking. So when I get to the office in the morning, usually he sets it by my big work bag and then I'm like, oh, this is great.
We literally have the same house there. It's great.
We should have dinner sometime.
Totally agree.
So anyway, he usually packs.
Which one of our husbands will cook for us?
I'll reach out to him. We'll take care of it.
Okay. I love it. This is going to be great. So anyway, we have usually leftovers for lunch from dinner the night before.
Yeah.
Really, like you don't have to make it difficult. Super simple. And then hydrogen water has been really cool. Like I've started on that trend. It makes a difference. It's kind of the same thing. That extra hydrogen ion in the water will attach to all that yucky stuff in your system and help to filter it out. So I, for the longest time, was like, that's dumb. That just makes your water look funky with the light in it. It's probably in my bag. Until I started, number one, I drink more water when I utilize it.
Cool.
Which in and of itself, like really
that's a
simple
benefit.
tip.
Yeah.
If you're dehydrated, that's a problem. But problem number two is so many people will drink a ton of water, but they're still dehydrated because the health of their cells is so poor. The water doesn't get into the cellular matrix. It just kind of runs right through them. And so getting clean water, healthy water is important. And a lot of time filtered because what we're drinking from our typical faucets is probably not the.
You mean fluoride isn't good for you?
We know about fluoride now.
You know about fluoride?
The cat's out of the bag.
Okay. I've actually invested in a toothpaste company. This is really funny. My 7-year-old also, when she filled out her paperwork for first grade this year, what do you want to be when you grow up? Toothpaste maker? What kid writes toothpaste maker? I'm like, first of all, it's chiropractor, but toothpaste maker is really cute. But we invested in a company that's making fluoride-free toothpaste.
I think she's going to take over the business. It sounds like.
It's so crazy. Anyway, yeah. So I missed the brush your teeth without the fluoride. So that's a whole rabbit hole we could jump down at some point in time. But yeah.
So should I tell my dentist not to use the fluoride on my teeth next time?
Well, I go to a dentist that doesn't even offer it because they know better.
Oh.
Because that's still old school, right?
Yeah.
Like, and the metal fillings, like the silver fillings, bad idea. Root canals, bad idea.
Yeah.
Like I've had root canals reversed. I've had metal fillings and amalgams removed. I literally do everything that I tell my clients that they should do.
I love that.
That is an expensive and a painful and awful process. But here's the thing. When I had that done, I believe that I would never have gotten pregnant if I hadn't had those metal amalgams removed. Because when I had heavy metal testing done, the amount of mercury and lead in my system was really startling. I was vaccinated as a child. Once I knew better, I quit basically college years and really once I get into chiropractic school. So that certainly could have been a component of it. But those metal fillings leach mercury. Like if you watch to see how they have to take those out, the doctors are essentially in hazmat suits to remove that because it's so toxic. Well, if there's a crack in that filling and that's leaking into your bloodstream, the amount of chronic pain and hormone issues that can cause you is insurmountable. Like, and most people just don't even know it's a problem. And then there are dentists still using it. So again, a whole nother topic, and you could bring a great holistic dentist in here that could have a conversation with you in more detail than I certainly could about something like that. But I had all of those removed. I removed the root canals. I had root canals reversed. That's awful. But if you don't, then you're living with inflammation that your body just can't overcome.
My gosh.
And so those things have made all the difference in the world for me.
What a cool world we live in.
I know. This is so much information that like now you have things to research. I mean, I'm going to be Googling all evening, I think. Okay, so the water.
Yep,
we
the water
with the water.
I do a lot of peptides. I play around with peptides a bit just to kind of figure out dosages. Before we did any of the GLP-1 activating peptides, I tried those myself. They have benefits that go beyond just weight loss. So I didn't really need to lose a lot of weight. A few pounds after my daughter was born that I never lost. So really easily lost weight, but it helps significantly with kind of food cravings. So people who are looking for a little bit of a crutch to help make those changes. And that's how we present it. Like, this is not a solution. Like, these injections that people are using on wide scale, number one, they're overdosed in many cases, which is what's giving them the side effects, causing them to lose muscle mass, which is not healthy weight. So we track muscle mass. Are you losing muscle? If so, we're not giving you another prescription.
Beautiful.
Like, simple stuff like this. But it really does make a difference in helping people change habits. So if they will approach it the way they should, by allowing this as being a small window of opportunity to change your habits, that you're no longer craving sugars, you're no longer craving those things you would grab, let's really clear those out of the house. Let's make sure that that little bit of weight loss that it helps with inspires them to exercise. It inspires them to go for the walk after dinner. It inspires them to do all the other health habits. It's basically just a catalyst to do all the things they knew they should do.
That's
and then
beautiful.
we have a step down process. Like, you're not meant to be on this forever. How do we slowly wean you off in a way that's going to maintain those results, but now with your lifestyle?
Yeah.
Not with that product. So we use that. I like to test around with some that are good for muscle building.
Ooh.
That are really safe. So that's been a fun one lately. NAD can be great for people. I'm trying to think what else. And then supplementation, like supplements we do based on our lab outcomes. I think everybody should be on an omega-3, on some form of probiotic, and acetylcysteine. So that's our glutathione precursor. That's our master antioxidant. So I do IV vitamins. Actually, I had one right before I came over because I'm traveling again this week. And so those for me are really important because I know my body's absorbing those vitamins quickly and giving me a huge boost beyond what I would reasonably do with supplementation. But there are some supplements that everyone should be on. And then from there, we use labs to kind of figure out what is your body deficient in. So we make sure that we're filling sufficiencies, not just giving you one of every product off the shelf and hoping your body absorbs some of it.
Right.
Fantastic.
Okay, so the vitamins, anything else as far as routines go throughout the day?
Oh, I like to use PEMF. So if you're familiar with that, pulsed electromagnetic frequencies, some really cool science with that. So I use a halo, it's called. It's a big coil. It's sitting next to my bed. So when I go to bed at night, I put my phone in another room because you don't want that Wi-Fi signal around you, right? Put my phone in another room, turn on the halo, usually put on some sort of PEMF that's going to help with parasympathetic and sympathetic regulation. Great for digestion, great for body repair, great for mental clarity. We sleep on a grounding mat. That, I think, makes a world of difference.
I have grounding sheets in our Amazon cart. I think this was a sign.
Push the buy button.
I just like to research stuff. I've been burned so many times in the fitness industry by silly, goofy shit.
Yeah.
And if I can have, we talked about this the other day, if I can have every dollar back that I spent on something that,
something that
worked, that did nothing for me, I would be a millionaire. Yeah. But I just have to vet it. You know, so she'll say, what about this? And I'm like, I got to do it, man.
I haven't learned how the grounding sheets work. The grounding mat, and maybe the sheets are the same, but the grounding mat actually plugs into the ground outlet. And so it gives you a neutral charge overnight. So you don't have that electrical signal.
Sheets are the same. Yeah.
Yep.
So I think it's the same.
Either way.
Concept, yeah. Okay.
We just had the mat forever, and that seems to work really well for us. That's all that's coming to mind.
Okay.
I'm sure I missed a couple of things.
So no screens before bed, clearly, if you're leaving your phone in the other room.
No phone in the other room. That's probably one I could be a lot better with just because running multiple businesses and I work till late. I don't want to add my work hours, but I do try to do really well with sleep. So when my daughter goes to bed at night is when I head up and head to bed. And so I need 8 hours. I need my sleep. I wish I was one of most adults do. There are some people who can get by on 5 or 6, and I'm like, gosh, I wish I could get those extra hours for something else. But I need 8 hours of sleep. So usually by the time my husband starts waking me up, it's been.
I think if you're doing anything substantial, physically or mentally, every day, you have a huge vision, a huge mountain. Yeah. You need your sleep.
You need your sleep, and I think like right now I have a really, really big week coming up. And so I've tried to prioritize that even more rather than using, you know, those hours where I could work late into the night. There's a season for that, and I've been through seasons of that. But right now it's like I need to be sharp. I need to be on. I can't let that brain fog ever sneak up on me in high pressure moments. And so right now that sleep piece is, I think, really, really pivotal. And then workouts, like I get in a good, probably 3 workouts per week. I'm not a daily. My days start early. I start seeing patients at 7:30 in the morning. And with 3 kids at 3 schools, like it can be a little tricky to squeeze that in the mornings. So 3 times a week. And I do what my body tells me. And right now it's a lot of strength training. I just really enjoy building muscle mass. I think for hormones, that's important. I think for mental clarity, that's important. If you want to keep your metabolism healthy, that's important. And like, there was this phrase that I heard recently, like, don't age peacefully. And I'm like, oh,
I love
that's
that
a
shit.
really good way of approaching things.
Yeah.
Like, go, like, age aggressively, like, fight it. Like, and not that I'm fighting against it. We have not actually launched our podcast yet, but we've recorded, I think, 8 or 9 episodes.
Yes.
And it's called Ageless.
Love that.
Heck yeah.
Because the goal is that you keep feeling whatever age that you want to feel by all these different tools that you're using, and that the number really doesn't matter.
So true. Well, and I've done enough physical activity. I mean, I went on a Spartan race with a guy, I think that he was like in his 80s.
Incredible.
And was doing a beast. Here I am in my, at the time, I think I was like early 30s.
Yeah.
And was like, oh my gosh, I think I'm dying. And this guy has like a cane and is like pushing 100.
Yeah.
Right. And is just like,
yeah,
I can still do it. And
yeah.
I'm like,
He's
okay,
not aging
sir.
peacefully. He is going with a fight. That's awesome.
And then I did CrossFit for 5 years, and it was like I would go into workouts thinking, again, I was dying. And this was in my 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And I would be working out with 60, 70-year-old adults that are just crushing it. And I'm like, okay, if this grandpa or grandma can do this, why am I'm supposed to be like in the peak fitness of my lifetime right now?
It tells you they've been through a thing or two, right? Like they've realized that they have to work for it. And I think that that's valuable. And then this picture, like I've seen this picture and I'm sure everyone can kind of relate to it, but the woman in her 80s sitting in a wheelchair in the nursing home and the woman in her 80s in the gym still with great biceps. And I'm like, I know which way I need to go.
Yes.
There is only one choice when you see it that way.
Because it's a choice.
It's a choice.
That's what I think is so fascinating to me. It's just a fucking choice.
It is.
It's the intentional action behind what you want out of life.
Yeah.
And we can either waste away, like I watched my grandparents do, just absolutely waste away.
Yeah.
Or we can, like I said, put up a good fight.
Yep.
I'd rather go out in a blaze of glory, man.
Damn right. My husband has this phrase, easy hard or hard easy. And he said it last night to the boys. Like one of them was studying and one of them was playing a little video game. And he's like, hey, are you ready for that test? Did you do hard easy or easy hard? Like, did you do the work to make it easy on the other end, or are you taking it easy now to make it hard for yourself later?
I love
and
that.
I'm like, that's a really great way of looking at it because it's relevant in so many areas of life.
Oh yeah.
And
Delayed gratification.
And we're seeing it now with I'm pushing 40, I'm 38, and I'm seeing my friends now be presented with these situations that are forcing their loved ones to stop doing what they're doing to start the process of taking care of them.
Yeah.
And they're in their 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to your 50s and your 60s and your 70s, if in your 40s you have struggles, the people you love and depend on you are now going to be forced to take care of you.
Yep.
You've not only ruined your life, but you've fundamentally changed the life of everybody you touch because of your lack of personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Agreed. And I think part of my real interest when it came to the stem cell therapy and the regenerative therapy that we do was because I have a huge family history of Alzheimer's and dementia. And so while I don't always think it's the best idea to do every lab under the sun and find out everything you're susceptible for, like that can be a trap too, because then you think that these things are coming when you have the ability to turn genes on and genes off with choices.
Yeah.
But I did want to know, I was like, okay, well, am I at high risk for Alzheimer's and dementia? Because I know what that looks like. And I want to, number one, for me, it would motivate me to work even harder to do the things at prevention, where other people would get that information and think, oh, that's just what I have coming. There's nothing I can do, right? So you have to know which one of those two people you are before you proceed with getting that data. But I wanted to know because it made a difference to me and what that would do. But I was silver lining. I always look for it. Both of my grandmothers were very much taken care of by my mom and my dad. So I was back home in North Dakota just visiting them this weekend. And it was actually the first time that I'd been back since both of my grandmas had passed and there weren't grandmothers to go visit. And I am so proud of my mom for how much she was with my grandma, even in a memory care facility. And the same for my dad. Like they visited their mothers virtually every day. Like that's cool. That's a huge commitment. My dad would put eye drops in for my grandma every night. His job, my aunt would take care of the mornings and he was there in the evenings to get her to bed. Like, what a noble thing to do, right? But during those phases, my parents both started making health changes because they realized, wow, if I take better care of myself, I'm not going to do the same thing to my kids. Yeah. And that like brings tears to my eyes because nothing else would have spurred that change for them. Like when I go home, I'm not kidding, I open the cupboard and there are the gluten-free Oreos now. Let me tell you, there are the gluten-free Oreos and it's called the happy drawer. Literally, everyone knows where it is. It's the happy drawer. It's got candy, it's got cookies, but the gluten-free and the sugar-free versions. Anyway, we're still a work in progress, right? But they've made changes because they see that there are choices to make that if you make differently, it's not selfish, right? It impacts everyone around you. And when people make those choices and become healthier, you're going to have better relationships. You're going to be more productive. You're going to make more money because you have bigger vision and bigger goals and are going to help more people. Right. And those are noble things.
Yep, totally. What do you wish more people knew about health, wellness, anything related?
I think the biggest thing is that you're not going to find health in a sick care world. Like you cannot keep doing what you've done and expect a different result. If you want to have better health, it is going to take some work, but there are people who can guide you and lead you and help you prioritize what those are. I get real frustrated when people don't take action steps because insurance won't cover it. And I'm like, insurance was never here to make you healthy. Yeah. Insurance was here to cover catastrophic problems. And let's hope you never need your insurance, right? Like that's the goal. Let's hope you never need those insurance policies. That's what they're there for, is the big, bad, ugly stuff. If you want health, if you want longevity, if you want anti-aging, if you want to actually have a highly functioning system, that's on you. And that's a tough pill to swallow. I don't mean the pun, but that's hard. Yeah. And it's going to be hard, but it is going to be so worth it. And you just have to take the first step. Like you can't change it all tomorrow. I get that, but you have to take the first step and you have to be accountable. And I think that's one of the biggest things that our clinics do is that like, we're going to be very accountable to our patient. Like that's my job. And that's trained in every employee and team member we have. But most importantly, you have to be accountable to yourself. You have to stick to a program. You can't expect that changes are going to occur overnight and that it's going to happen easily, but it's worth it. And I think that that's the biggest message is that you're not going to find health in a sick care world.
Yeah, so true. I love that. Do you have any more questions?
How can people get a hold of you? Because what you're doing is fantastic work.
Thank you.
We want people to know that there's people out there.
Yeah.
We tell them at the end of every episode.
Yeah.
Reach out. I don't care what your goals or visions are. I want to hear them if they're cool and gnarly. Like, bring it on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Most people follow me on Facebook. It's just my name, Staci Jean Blume. But our office is in Noblesville, liferefine.com. So that's Life Refine Chiropractic, or wellinfused.com. And so you'll be able to find both clinic locations there and then any additional locations as we start onboarding at the end of the year.
Amazing.
We'll put all that in the show notes and everything for everybody. But this was fantastic. I appreciate your time.
Oh, it's fun to be here.
I learned so much.
Yeah.
This was great. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Redefining Resilience.
To learn more about building your mental and physical readiness, check out odysseyresilience.org.
and follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok.